Hello guys, it's Willie from YouTube. In today's episode, we're going to talk about the 46th president, President Trump. Now I know a lot of you guys have a lot of different views of President Trump, and even now he is still creating history by fighting people by not leaving the office and conceding. But I would like to go over his accomplishments in this video. In the next video, I'll do about the failures of his last 4 years. But in the last 4 years, we're going to talk about the accomplishment that he's had. Now, we need to remember that Donald Trump created millions, billions, and billions of jobs created thanks to Donald Trump in the last 4 years. If you don't count COVID, he's one of the presidents that created millions of jobs. In fact, it's the lowest unemployment for blacks, Latinos in decades, at least 50 years. Manufacturing jobs has grown the fastest with Donald Trump over the last 30 years. The median household has also risen to the highest level ever. Youth unemployment is the lowest in 50 years, and veteran unemployment is the lowest in 20 years. Now, we have to remember that this was before COVID. Now, COVID was like an act of God, so there was no real control over the effects of COVID. But there are how to respond to the COVID. It will be in my next video, the failures of Trump and how he dealt with COVID. Now, the tax bill favors small business. It's been the best in the last 80 years for small business owners. He got people in the Federal Drug Administration to create more generic drugs, freezing and reversing on prices. Because a lot of these drugs that these companies are making are way overpriced and generic ones can be made. So Donald Trump made sure that generic ones were made for people to buy drugs at a lower price. He stopped overcharging on seniors. There was more transparency on the drugs. He removed gag orders from federal drug administrators to show their prices so that they are more competitive. He increased coal exports by 60%. This has been the highest since 1957. The gas exporter of crude oil. He now made America the #1 gas exporter of crude oil, beating out Russia and Saudi Arabia, thanks to Trump. He renegotiated the Nafta to be in favor for America, which he wanted to make America great again. And some people, controversial, the Muslim ban. He never called it the Muslim ban, but they felt like it was targeting the Muslim countries, but really there was a lot of terrorism in those countries. And it wasn't only in the Middle East, he added Nigeria to it. And it was because of this, I like to brag that Donald Trump did not get into any wars in the last 4 years of his presidency. You can't say that about Obama or Bush 1 and 2, Clinton. All these other presidents have always got into war. Some of them, as soon as they step into office, a war started. But that was not with Trump. And a lot of reason is because the Muslim ban stopped a lot of immigration coming from terrorist countries. A lot of people were afraid of him, his rhetoric. But that kept people at bay because they were afraid of messing with Donald Trump. Because they always knew that Donald Trump, he was that bulldog in the fight. If he had to, he would get into. But everybody was afraid of him. The rest of the world was afraid with him. So that's probably why he did not get into any wars, because nobody wanted to mess with him. Compared to the other presidents, a lot of people say that he's trigger happy. He might have been started, but he never started a war. Think about that. He kept Guantanamo Bay open to make sure that any of these war criminals are dealt with. Because even when he went to see North Korea, was threatening about they have nukes and stuff like that. Well, he whispered and told Kim Jong-un that we also have weapons, and I have weapons all over this world. So don't try and mess with me, buddy. And that is where he got restricted. Because a lot of the other presidents like Obama, they would not go and meet with people like Kim Jong-un. But President Trump, with his courage, he was willing to meet with any leader in the world, and if he had to, he'll flex his power, and they wouldn't mess with him. That's why there was no wars when he was presidency. Even though some people think that he is a trigger-happy president, but really there's no wars with him. He fought back even China with their intellectual property theft, abusive trade deals and practices, and hiding. Even when they were trying to hide the China flu, Donald Trump came after China. It didn't matter which superpower it was. That's why I like Donald Trump, that he was always ready to tell the truth. It didn't matter who was trying to come after him, he was ready to come after them too. He wasn't like the other president that would buck down and try to be all politically correct. He would call it like it is, just like how he did it to TikTok and call them a spying agency. Also, when people laughed at him when he talked about he was going to build a great wall and have Mexico pay for it. The wall did get built, but Mexico did not build that wall. Americans did, which is pretty good because it created jobs for Americans. So why give the money to these Mexicans to build a wall when he can give the money to the Americans? So the wall was built. He increased making cannabis and hemp legal throughout all the states. Pretty much all the states are pretty much getting on board to legalize it. Also, a lot of people will say he's a chauvinist, he doesn't really like women. He had a bill for airliners to reserve spots for pregnant women. He also increased a 12 weeks paid parental leave for people that working in the government. He gave them 12 weeks leave, which is the longest, and this only been done first time in history thanks under his presidency. He undid the criminal Biden bill by pardoning and also reducing and challenging a lot of these crimes or so-called allegations of these criminals that largely impacted a lot of the black males in our community. So thanks to thanks to Trump, he went after even Biden. No one was going to scare him. He increased HBCU funding more than any other president, even Barack Obama. He increased funding to HBCUs more than any other president. He forgave a lot of debts. A lot of people, they think he doesn't like gay and lesbians. He actually appointed 5 openly gay ambassadors in his team. He defeated ISIS, killing Abu Bakr albaghdadi, who was a major leader for this terrorist organization, making it come to a crippling end. He created opportunity zones investments. So if you were to invest in these areas, mostly, Detroit, a lot of these poverty-stricken areas, that you would get a lot of tax breaks to stimulate redevelopment in those areas. The stock market, thanks to him, in the first 3 years before COVID, were at record high levels. Women unemployment was the lowest in 65 years. I know they like to hate on him because his rhetoric may be a little chauvinist, but his actions show otherwise. And sometimes if he said those statements were true. Thanks to him, he put Twitter on the map, thanks to him, with all of his tweets. All of us were watching around the world to see what he'll be tweeting. He wasn't afraid to speak his mind. He was authentic. That's why a lot of men find him attractive. Because he means what he says. He's a straight shooter. He gets right to the point. And he'll call BS as it stands. Welfare reform. He also wanted to make sure that all of these adults who are able to work, there's no reason why they should stay on welfare forever. He wanted to make sure that those able-bodied people that want to go on welfare have a pathway for them to get off of welfare. And if not, put them to use. That's why y'all see a lot of people downtown with a broomstick and a spade. It's because even if you're going to go on welfare, we're going to find you something to do. We're going to get you downtown and start cleaning up the downtown and make it nice. He led in the largest reduction in carbon emissions. Trace Act. He abolished all of these robot callers, that really spam the phone calls. He made a law outlawing those people. He reduced the corporate tax from 35% to 21%. And now you got Biden, who wants to raise it right back up to 35%. And in some states, the personal tax, he wants to raise it up to over 60%. When you raise all those taxes, especially now with COVID, and people are struggling just to run their business, and you're raising their taxes, you're really crippling these small business owners. Not really the big owners, because they have a lot of tax breaks and they know how to get away with it. But these small business owners, they're not making that much, yet the government wants to reach in even further with more taxes and raise it. Which, this is not the right thing to do when people are struggling, especially during the COVID. That's going to be one thing that a lot of the people who are running businesses in America, and even now, you're not getting that much from the government, and the government wants to tax you even more. So they can use it just to squander on golf. He ended mass incarceration. Removed some early release programs for criminals. Reduced sentencing and disparities for blacks. And he banned the shackling of pregnant inmate mothers. So guys, these are the accomplishments. These are a summary of what Trump has done for America in the last 4 years. I know some people, they ask me, what has Trump done in the last 4 years? He has done a lot. It's just because all you hear on the news is his last tweet. Only his rhetoric. All of the funny things he says. Some of them are funny, some of them a little harsh. But that's distracting you from all of his accomplishments that has been positive for the American people. Remember, he had to take care of all those bad hombres. And there are a lot of them crossing through the border. And remember, when they send them, from people from Mexico, they send their worst.